Hello and welcome back to 10-Minute Elections. Today's date is Monday, June 15th, 2020, and as such, we have a Map Monday episode coming your way. Today we are discussing the 2024 prospective electoral map as of right now, and how each state is trending. So, I have filled in the safe states for each party, and these are the safe states in a generic Democrat versus generic Republican presidential election, although at this point we don't really know what that means. For the sake of names, let's say Joe Biden and Josh Hawley are the two major party nominees, and let's say Joe Biden is running for re-election in 2024. That would be a fairly generic scenario, at least it seems so as of right now. So you may see this safe map is much more favorable to the Democratic Party than the current safe map. In fact, New Mexico, although I recently moved that to safe, Colorado and Virginia are safe states. In fact, every Clinton state is safe Democratic in 2024 as of right now, except for Minnesota and Nevada. As for safe Republican, they are losing the states of Alaska, Mississippi, and South Carolina as safe states, although Iowa gets closer to that status. So let's cover some of the likely states, and let's just go west to east. Starting off with Alaska, this is a state that's been trending Democratic as of recently, but it is still a solidly Republican state, although they do have a puncher's chance in both the House and Senate races in 2020. So Joe Biden hasn't been doing all that terribly here, and his margin and the JHK prospective margin, they're both below that 15% safe threshold. So I mark Alaska as a likely state simply because it will probably dip under that 15% threshold in a generic scenario in 2024. Moving over to Nevada, this is a state that is essentially just 12 years ahead of Arizona in its demographic shifts. This was a Bush state that has become rapidly Democratic. It went to Obama nearly by double digits, and although Trump was leading in the polls in Nevada, Hillary Clinton actually won the state. As I've discussed in earlier videos, polls in Nevada are very spotty and almost always favor Republicans disproportionately. So this is going to be a likely state. And moving down to the state of Arizona, I've classified it as a lean state in the 2020 presidential election. Ditto for 2024, but closer to likely than to tilt. I'm expecting a 3 to 4% margin for the Democratic Party in a generic 2024 scenario. Arizona is no longer a red state, and it is a blue-leaning battleground state, if anything. Moving down to the state of Texas, this is a state that Democrats have had their eye on for a while. It went to McCain and Romney comfortably, but Democrats have been chipping away year after year. Greg Abbott won re-election by single digits as a popular Republican governor in 2018, and I have it rated as a lean Republican on the presidential level in 2020 after Beto O'Rourke nearly unseated incumbent Republican Senator Ted Cruz. So this state is ballooning largely due to the immigration from Mexico and the rapidly diversifying and younger population, especially with a lot of millennials residing in Texas coming out to vote now. So I think there's certainly an argument to call Texas a toss-up in 2024. There's even an argument to call it a lean blue, if not in 2024, in 2028. But as of right now, until we have more conclusive data showing that, something like Arizona, I'm going to classify the state as a tilt Republican. Moving over now to Nebraska's 2nd Congressional District, I'm not going to spend too much time here. This is a lean Republican now, although JHK actually projects it as a tilt Biden. I do not, and I project it as a tilt Republican still in 2024. Moving over to the state of Iowa now. This is a state where we still don't exactly understand why or how Barack Obama carried it twice, and actually by fairly large margins that he did. But it swung handily to Donald Trump, and although Democrats have a solid chance here, that's really more due to Donald Trump's extreme unpopularity in the state, proportional to his vote count in 2016, than anything having to do with the partisan demographics of the state. So I'm classifying it as likely. I don't think it will be over 15 points. I think we can expect to see about a 10-point Iowa in a generic scenario, especially if the Republicans do run someone like Josh Hawley. Moving up to Minnesota now, which I've classified as a likely state in 2020, but again, that's owing largely to Donald Trump's unpopularity and Joe Biden's popularity in the state. The Rust Belt is becoming redder. We just don't know exactly how fast, because what we have from 2016 as opposed to previous elections and the polling data we have now doesn't really spell out any specific type of trend other than a general reddening of that area. So I'm going to classify Minnesota as a lean Democrat. Minnesota is a blue state until further notice. Wisconsin as a toss-up. This one's too tough to call. And Minnesota and Pennsylvania both as tilt Democrats, but that could easily go either way. This could be a lean Democrat. Heck, it could be a lean Republican in 2024, although that's fairly unlikely. Moving down to the state of Ohio, I have it classified as a tilt Republican on the presidential level, but that, again, is not really due to the partisan makeup of the state. I'm going to classify Ohio as a likely state, and it will continue to redden, at least for the foreseeable future. Moving down to the American South now, and we're looking at the state of Mississippi. Now, Mississippi, I do believe, especially considering the large African American population there and Democrats' competitiveness in recent Mississippi statewide races, this state is not going to be safe. It's not going to be particularly competitive, but it's going to be a likely state, and really exactly the same argument goes for the state of South Carolina, where Democrats have been surprisingly competitive of late. Moving down now to the state of Florida. This state actually saw a Republican flip a blue seat in 2018. However, due to the restored voting rights of ex-felons, Joe Biden at this point being the favorite to win the state, and the large influx of immigrants to the state, I'm going to classify the state as a tilt Democratic, but this is a state that could just as easily be a lean Republican. I think that Republicans actually have more of an opportunity in the state than Democrats do. They could potentially carry races by larger margins in Florida than Democrats could. Moving up to the state of Georgia, this is a state that, again, it's sort of an Arizona, but this one's really just too tough to call even 4 years out. Could be a tilt blue, could be a tilt red. As of now, I'm leaving it as a toss-up. That will change if Joe Biden wins the state, and that will change if Donald Trump carries the state by over 5 points. Okay, moving up to the state of North Carolina. This is a state that is becoming bluer and bluer. It's a state where the popular vote went 50-50 in the midterms. Last time it went blue on the presidential level was 2008, and it was the last time in a while. Joe Biden is favored to narrowly win the state, and Cal Cunningham is narrowly favored, but I do classify as of right now both of those races as toss-ups. However, by 2024, I am comfortable rating North Carolina as a tilt Democratic. So notice, just before we get to Maine, that I said earlier, notice how this map looks really bad for Republicans, but it's not all that bad. So you might say, well, you've given Democrats 321 electoral votes, and spoiler alert, Maine isn't going to change from where it currently is, although I will rate the 2nd district as likely. I think it'll eclipse that 5-point threshold. That's now 323 electoral votes for the Democrats. However, 80 of those are tilt votes. All of the tilt votes in Florida, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Michigan is what's giving them an electoral college majority. So, again, for the sake of argument, if Josh Hawley is the Republican nominee, if he wins all of the states I've given to Republicans, specifically Texas, which I've reduced all the way to a tilt, then if he can pick up Georgia, pick up Wisconsin, the two true toss-up states I've rated, and then just win narrowly, and these are all states that I'm projecting Democrats to be ahead by less than 1% in, Florida, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Michigan, he will win the election. This is a map that's a lot more competitive than it looks, although Democrats certainly have an edge. I think the Republican Party will need to change at least parts of their platform and their ideologies if they want to be genuinely competitive looking ahead to something like 2028. The current Republican Party model will not work 8 years in the future when many of these tilt states move over to leans, and Texas might even be a tilt blue, Georgia for sure. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll be back on Thursday.